Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Greetings from London. Hello to you joining us wherever you are in the world. Today is our 28th UFI Connects session. We have a 1-hour session today, which will be an informal presentation and Q&A session with our speaker today, who is Tesi Baur. I'm sure many of you know Tesi already, but before I introduce him and pass him over to the floor, just want to give you some housekeeping notes. So if you want to ask questions of Tesi, please do so in the chat down below. Then the UFI team will come to you and ask you to ask your question to him face to face. That'll come in about half an hour. So yeah, to introduce Tesi, as I mentioned, I first met Tesi 15 years ago as a colleague at Reed Exhibitions. Before that, he was with Messe Frankfurt, then with UBM, and now, of course, the CEO and founder of MBB Consulting. Tesi runs and recently set up the Exhibition Think Tank Group, which is involved about 150 industry professionals from around the world to look at the effects and the problems facing our industry in these unprecedented times. Tesi also partners with UFI on the Exhibition Management School, which we recently relaunched. So very happy to have him with us today. So Tesi, without further ado, over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you for the very, very nice words. In this session, I want to share with you, exactly like you said, what we have done in the exhibition think tank, and also a little bit our thoughts and our research around hybrid events. So yeah, welcome everybody. I saw many of familiar faces, but also many new faces. So it's really great to be here. I don't need to introduce myself. Nick has done that in a perfect way. Only for everybody who is thinking, maybe sitting in America or UK, thinking, why has a person from London such a horrible accent? I'm originally coming from Germany, but I'm living in England since 2006 now. So what we are doing, we are a consulting company. Our main business is really running consulting projects in strategy, in due diligence, but also in digital and hybrid events. We give a lot of exhibition education courses. We run together with UFI the Exhibition Management School, and we have started the ETT Club, the Exhibition Think Tank Club, and the Exhibition Think Tank Club is really a baby of the Corona crisis and is an exercise where many people from the industry came together to discuss and to find solutions how our industry should react to this crisis. This was a banner we shared at the beginning of the first exhibition think tank, and the idea of the banner was really to fight back and not to take the crisis and not to become depressive, really stand up, coming together, gathering our expertise, gathering our thoughts and gathering our ideas to come up with solutions, what our industry can do to really come out of the crisis, preferably stronger than we have been before the crisis. Overall, we gathered 20 working groups. Every working group was around 5 to 10 people strong, and we gathered around 150 exhibition professionals. It was actually quite interesting that during the think tank, more and more people joined. We started the think tank with 120 people, and then from sprint to sprint, it was growing, and it was growing in skills and ideas. And at the end, when we finished the first think tank, we were around 150 people. And this was the concept of the think tank. It happened, by the way, as to my knowledge, for the first time that industry people gathered and went through this crowd intelligence, communication and discussion process to come up with a solution to a current situation. We divided the think tank into 4 sprints, and the 4 sprints, you could also call them modules, or you could call them discussion rounds. We call them sprints. And we said we want to drill down from one level, always one level deeper, from sprint to sprint. So in the first sprint, we had a good discussion, and we prepared it with a questionnaire of which areas need to change in the exhibition industry. Then in the second sprint, we defined what exactly needs to change in these areas. And when I say we defined, I mean that the working groups split up into group working phases and then discussed it amongst themselves, and then we were gathering in an online session and presented the results to the entire think tank. Then in the third sprint, we defined what could a solution for the customer look like. And in the last sprint, finally, which was at the end of June, beginning of July, just before the summer break, we discussed how should we deliver the change as an industry. So that was the concept. A little bit of preparation work, which was also important. We prepared the think tank with a survey. We had feedback from all around the world, focus in Europe, but also very good feedback from South America, North America, Asia, and Australia. We had actually one group that was half Australian and half South African. However, that came together, but it was an amazing group. And we gathered the first preparing content for the think tank from the entire industry. And that is in the concept also a relatively important fact, because that means we jumped in our discussion always not only through 4 modules, 4 sprints, we also jumped through 3 different universes. We asked the entire industry for their feedback. Then we came together with 150 people in the think tank. Then we split up the think tank into 20 working groups where only 5 to 7 people discussed it with each other. And then we gathered the results and presented back to the results. So we had input and we had inspiration from totally different groups of people, from different sizes of group of people, and from people from different areas of that planet as well. So, and that was one feedback which I would like to share with you, because we asked, how much do you think our industry needs to change? And maybe bear in mind, that was at the relative beginning of Corona crisis. That was at the time when people said, oh my God, hopefully it will be over. And many scenarios planning said, in 3 months, in 4 months. I remember that many people said, in September it will be history, or in October it will be history. Now we are in September and October. Unfortunately, it's still not history. But even in this time, 95% of the industry said, we really need to change. And we really need to think as an industry, how do we want to look like, and how does our customer want us to look like when this crisis is over? So 95%. Nearly an election, a communist election result from East Germany before the wall came down in Berlin, but very clear statement. And here I have my first question, and Pascal, please launch the survey, is how many areas do you think we need, the groups have identified needs to change? And I give you the results: 11 areas, 22 areas, or 33 areas. And with areas, I mean something like the setup of the show, or digital, or the value proposition, or insurance. We just asked the industry, how many areas or which area do you think we need to change in the industry? And I can see the results are coming in. And I think, Pascal, I can end the poll and I show the results. So most of the people go for the middle, for 22 areas in the industry needs to change, which would be quite a lot of areas, would be many areas. If we really need to change 22 aspects of our product exhibitions, then yeah, we have a lot to do in the next weeks. But the real answer was 33 areas. So all the people, I saw some people in that session who actually joined the think tank, their votes don't count because they knew it anyway. So most of the people went with the 22 areas, but it was much more. It was indeed 33 areas that need to change. And on this slide, and also on the next slide, I show you exactly which areas have been identified. And in this in this preparing survey we did before, we gave a couple of areas. Do you think the setup of the show needs to change? Do you think customer centricity needs to change? Strategy building process needs to change? But we also gave a couple of we also did not have a couple of choices you see here on the slide. And one thing that was popping up very, very strongly from the industry, but then also from the working groups, is that they said the value proposition of our product need to change. So after going through the 3 rounds of asking the industry, asking the think tank, and discussing it in each working group, we identified 33 areas, and we were able to group these 33 areas into main topics like digital, with a lot of subtopics, or commercial strategy, or HR, or value proposition. And as I said, value proposition, that came something up that was really from the industry. And then we gave each area an importance score. And the importance score is simply the calculation out of the importance score given in the survey, multiplied by the number of people who said that this is an area that really needs to change. So here you see also what the think tank think is very important in the industry to change, and what is maybe less important. And then we asked our working groups, do you want to look after it? Remember, in sprint 2, we said, okay, what exactly in each area needs to change? So we asked the working group, after which area do you want to look after? And these were all the areas here in gray. The areas in blue, we didn't work on in the think tank because no group has chosen it. Not saying that these areas are less important. It was simply we had under 150 people, nobody who want to look after content and features. So this is our homework for the next year, guys. These are the areas you need to change. We can end this discussion now. Goodbye. No, it went on. I want to talk a little bit about the next slide, about the hybrid events. And what you see on these slides are the 4 main topics where the think tank said, okay, we really need to look after these areas. The first was value proposition, then pricing, supporting people came out very strongly, and I think it's also a very, very strong message to our industry. And this might not be a surprise for all of us, hybrid events. 2 things before I go into hybrid events. In our discussion in the think tank, the groups were very, very aligned that all these areas only go together. So you can't change value proposition without changing pricing, or the right value proposition with the wrong pricing might result in less customer take up. If we don't support our people, bigger diversification, more skills, then we are less prepared for the next crisis. So the discussions were very deep and very intense, that this not one area can be looked after in any isolation. And also the other thing which I found very interesting, when you mix 150 people and you have managing directors, you have students, which by the way did an absolutely amazing job, you have Asians, you have Europeans, you have Americans, you would expect some different opinions and some controversial discussions, specifically when you give the secure environment of splitting up in small groups. But in these areas, all 150 people were absolutely aligned that this is not a nice to have anymore to discuss it. It's an absolutely must. Okay, let's drill down a little bit more into hybrid events. And the first thing which I think is very important when we talk about hybrid events is to give the word hybrid event a definition. And we just launched a report from MBB Consulting where we give a framework and where we give a definition of what is actually a hybrid event. And a couple of the slides from this report I want to show you on the next 3 or 4 slides. So first of all, what is the definition of a hybrid event? And in our definition, we base the word or the term hybrid events on 3 pillars. The first is how we work with digital tools. The second is actually what do we mean with the word trade show? So we need to expand the meaning of the word trade show. And the last one, and I see this as very important, is also what is a balance between on-site and online aspects in a trade show. Hybrid is not online, hybrid is not on-site. Hybrid is a combination out of both of them. So what should be the balance between these 2 aspects? So for the first one, how to use digital tools. And here I see a real shift of how we should look at digital. When you see the old model, we invested a lot in digital also in the olden times. So we had very good registration system, we have online apps, we have navigation systems and so on. However, we didn't connect with our digital tools a strong USP. It was more the other way around. We developed digital tools to support the show, to support the on-site experience. And the show itself brought the benefit and the USP to the customer. And in future, in a hybrid setup, we need to shift this. The show is still a very strong part of the USP. I will tell a little bit more how strong it is, but a digital tool in its own right needs to carry a part of the USP and a part of the benefit as part of the digital tool. Otherwise, you are not be able to talk about this as a hybrid event. Or in other words, people who only enjoy our digital services must enjoy a part of the USP and a part of the benefit, even if they don't come to the show. And this exactly is a paradigm change I want to point out on this. For sure, coming to the show will give the full USP and the full benefit, but we reach target groups who are, even if they would not come to our show. And here you have a chance for our industry as well, because that means nothing else than widening our customer target group. So that is a different view on how we should look at digital tools. The second part of the definition is, what do we mean when we say trade show? So far, we meant the 3, 4, 5 days on site. The days when the show is open, the doors are opening, the visitors are coming through the door, the exhibitors are at their stands, and all the time before and after, we called it the preparation time and the post-show time, where many things happen, but a trade show where the 3, 4, 5 days when the show is open. And I think we need to change what the word trade show means. Actually, a trade show is happening a long time. A trade show is happening before the show opens and is happening after the door are closing. A trade show is happening when I use a digital tool to matchmake, or when I use a digital tool to be in a panel discussion. Then we are already in the trade show, and we will remain in the trade show when the show is closing, and when we continue to network, and when we continue to match buyers and sellers, or help our exhibitors for their brand building. So the meaning of the trade show is changing, but what is the balance? And this is the third pillar of our definition, is the focus still needs to be on trade shows. And I don't saying it to defend our business model. I don't saying it because I'm an exhibition person. I never worked in a different industry in my life. I'm saying it because there is nothing else that can replace the face-to-face moment. So even we create benefits and USP in this time, and even we talk about trade shows for a much longer period, the focus of the service must be, in my view, by 75% on the on-site trade show we deliver. This is our definition. So how can we then bring the hybrid model to life? And for that, we created a framework. And at the framework, we started relatively simple, and we asked ourselves, okay, we have the old world and we have a new world. And that was the old world. I'm an exhibitor. I want to present my products. I can go to a trade show. There I can book a stand, or I can join a country pavilion, or maybe I can present my product at a panel discussion or a conference. That doesn't exist. At that point, we did the slide. Thankfully, first trade shows are starting again, but we were forced in this world has disappeared for a while. So then we said, which online tools do exist? And we listed all online tools like blogs, newsletters, videos, panel discussion, virtual stands, everything that is out there. And in a first step, we grouped them into 3 different pockets. We said networking and communication. These are all tools you can do for networking and communication, which is one main motivation at an exhibition. Brand building and product presence, these are the online channels that work for this pocket. And more content and resources, something where you want to do on an ongoing basis, these are this tool. And then we went one step further, and we said, okay, now we have the 3 pockets, and that slide looks horrible, but it's not so hard to read. We said we have now all these online channels, and we group them in the 3 pockets. And then we have exhibitor motivations. So we have here prospect engagement, availability, ease of execute, important for small companies, lead generation, brand building, and so on and so on. And then we simply matched which online channel under which main group is serving which exhibitor motivation in which way. So blogs are serving prospect engagement not very well, but they have a high reach, for example, and they have good product exposure, whilst others, one-to-one meetings, specifically the private organized one, they're very good for prospect engagement. So reading this slide either vertically or horizontally, you could do two things with the slide. You could say, okay, what have I done in the past? I did a blog and I did a white paper. Which motivation on my customer side actually have I served with my activities in the past? Or you could say, I want to build up a hybrid strategy. Which exhibitor motivations do I want to serve with my hybrid strategy? These are the tools I should use. So that is the framework so far. And then we used the framework for some trade shows. We looked quite at a lot of trade shows. And I show you 3 examples. And to say something, I'm impressed with all the 3 examples. So with the other show, I know myself very well, but also the other 2 shows I will show you on the next slide. Then we said, okay, now we can use the framework really to rate a trade show. Or we can to rate a trade show in terms of what is their hybrid level, their hybrid development. Or I could, and we have done the same, we could go to all trade shows in one sector and said, which trade show of this sector is offering which tool to serve which exhibitor motivation. And this is exactly what we did here. So we did what this show is offering in content and resources, networking and communication, brand and product presence. We looked at every trade show 45 minutes, which means likely we have not spotted everything this trade show offers, but very likely we have spotted more than an exhibitor would spot, because an exhibitor would likely not look at the trade show website for 45 minutes. That was a little bit the methodology behind. And then you can start comparing trade shows, and you will see, even with all the discussions in our industry, with all the think tanks we are organizing, everything else, trade shows take a totally different approach from trade show to trade show. If you are a big trade show company, you should do that exercise in your company to see if maybe your trade shows taking totally different approaches, even you are the same company. When you look at 10 or 15 slides, it becomes really interesting to use that framework. So that was the framework we used. And at the end, I want to show you one best practice example we found in the summer sprint. After the think tank, the exhibition think tank club, we turned it into a club, we do more think tanks and more sprints. And we did a summer sprint, which was joined by 7 working groups. And we said to the 7 working groups, please go on a hunt for the best hybrid event. And just last week, we had our panel discussion where we discussed 4 best practice cases for hybrid trade shows. And one frustrating result, or one good result, is we found amazing hybrid events. One frustrating result was one best practice case was actually from a trade show organizer. One best practice case was from a new kid on the block, from somebody who didn't organize trade shows before. And we see on the website, when they talk about exhibitors, they mean something entirely different than what we mean when we talk about exhibitors. So that's very interesting. And 2 best practice examples we found were actually from companies who are normally exhibitors at a trade show, which is an interesting finding in its own right. What happens if the big exhibitors now starting their own hybrid event? But I want to show you that best practice example. That is a French trade show. It's called Hop Wine. And we scanned this trade show with our framework, as I have shown you. And then we saw that they do something very, very clever. They are collecting samples from French wine producers when they are repackaging these samples into sample boxes, and then they are sending these sample boxes to high-value buyers, and then they run online events showing these samples to high-value buyers. Or you could say it in other words, they bring 6, when they have 6 samples of French wine producers in one box, they bring the products which you normally would find on 6 different exhibitor stands into the home of a high-value buyer. That's all what they do. So it's a logistical exercise, and they are very successful. They sent out more than 20,000 samples. Exhibitors can book their stands. It's scalable. Exhibitors can book a stand for 1,000 up to 6,000 pounds. and they have sent out more than 4,000 packages. That was, and this is a company that was not in the trade show organization business beforehand. And that was a best practice example we really discussed intensively in our panel discussion, because does it mean new competitors turn up? Does it mean that exhibitors become exhibition organizers now? What does it mean? Do we have the logistical skills? And so on and so on. So, and with this, I nearly finished my presentation. I have only 2 slides before I hand back to Nick. I just said it 5 minutes ago, we turned the exhibition think tank into the exhibition think tank club. You can please go on the website, and if you want to become a member, basic membership is for free. We are continuing to run sprints, we run panel discussions, we run think tanks. But we have a report library, we publish white papers, and we have focus groups for all kinds of subtopics in the exhibition industry. And 5-second promotion, please forgive me, our next 2 events are a think tank. That was, by the way, an idea of our Italian student group. We have an Italian student group, we have a French student group, and we are about to start a South African student group. So having the students and having the ideas in the think tank is very important for us. This was an idea of the Italian student group, and that think tank, starting on the 5th of October, will talk about that we want to discover the new trade show customer touch points. When we go back to the best practice examples, these are all totally different touch points to our customers. We don't know so far. This is what we try to discover. And the other session is on 14th of October. It's Netucation, which is hopefully a charming wordplay between networking and education. And there we talk about hybrid sales strategies in a very small group of people to network and to provide some knowledge in that area. And that's it. I'm stopping my presentation now, Nick, and handing back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tesi. Thank you very much. I mean, a lot of information there. Just for everybody's reference, the recording of this session will be up hopefully by tomorrow online, so you can catch it again. Before we have a couple of questions coming in, I mean, just before we do, I just want to back up something that Tesi said, which, look, as we know, there is well, our value proposition of our shows has been challenged for some time. In our CEO Summit, which was in fact our last live event in Rome in February, we were discussing just such a topic. You know, and everybody knew that our industry had to change to adapt to the new reality, as it were. You know, as you mentioned so eloquently, Tesi, we've been, you know, bolting on digital products without really putting it at the core of our business. We have some new data to back that up. We did some research with Explory recently, the global recovery study, which we spoke to 9,000 exhibitors and visitors, and the full report will be published in the coming weeks. But luckily, it also backed up with what you said, which is that the fundamental, if you like, the main thrust of it, the live show, cannot be replaced by digital alone. Of course, we've all been forced to pivot to virtual. Now, thank goodness, you know, more and more shows are opening up again. But by the same token, you know, many from Messe Frankfurt yesterday announced that they won't be holding any live shows, you know, even in the first quarter of next year. So this model, whether it's purely virtual or certainly hybrid, is with us to stay. But, you know, very much needs to be at the forefront and aligned with all of your thinking. But as I said, the positive news from this global recovery study was that almost across the board, almost every metric, exhibitors and visitors could not wait to come back to live events, because whether it was for product demonstration, for generating leads, for networking, live was far and away much better, which is a really positive message for our industry. And just on that one issue, before we do dive into the questions, and I see there are quite a few coming in now, we have another poll to run. So all of us here in the industry, I'm just wondering, Pascal, if you can pop that poll up. Parallel, you're driving, you're not allowed to take part in this. So when are you planning to hold your first live event again? Is it Q3 2020? I meant Q4 as well. Q1 next year, Q2 next year, or from July onwards? So yeah, the first one should be anytime this year in 2020. And just give you a few seconds there. Yeah, so if you, Pascal, that's pretty representative. You want to stop it there? So yeah, I mean, the second quarter of next year, is the median average. But, already, what's that? 1 in 7 of you, 15%, thinking it'll even be in the second half of next year. So certainly, as you also mentioned, back in March, who could have foreseen this? We thought that by now, hopefully, shows would be running again. But as you mentioned, this will be with us for some time to come. So, right, to go into the questions first, I want to come to Holger Feist. Where are you? There you are. So congratulations. I mean, there was another one about revenue models as well. And ultimately, that's on everybody's mind. So Holger, if you want to unmute yourself, if Karen, you can do it. You with us, Holger?
Might be unmuted now. This is just the obvious question. You were talking about digital, and I just wondered about the percentages, if they also stand for the revenue split. So I ended up 12.5% after the show. Is this what you would envisage, or is the difference in revenue and in...
Holger, you're fading out. I can't hear you.
Still?
Yeah, no, he's got. Sorry, Holger. We're gonna have to. I'll ask it for you. So there's a question on your revenue, on the revenue model. In your slide, you showed that 75% of the importance of the work, etc., was weighted towards the live show, and 12.5% on either time. Does that correspond to revenue? Does that, well, whether certainly revenue, the pricing's another question, but does that, should we be looking at a 75-25 split for live and digital?
It's a hard question, to be honest, but the 75-25 split that referred on that specific slide to USP and benefits. I think we need to focus on that our USP and our benefits are come to life by 75% through our live event. But still, to pick up the question is, what is the revenue split between online and on-site services? Our industry has massively problems to monetize online services. And very often, or even many people, I just heard it today, that people are saying it is not possible to earn money with online. And I think it is not true. Actually, I know a statistic that is vice versa. They're saying from all B2B marketing budgets, the budgets that are funding exhibition stands. So from all B2B marketing budgets worldwide, 80% go to online products, and 20% only go to offline or to on-site products. So it's actually vice versa, that online can be monetized. It's more the case that our industry doesn't know how to monetize it. When you go to Hop Wine, they found a way to monetize a hybrid model, and it seemed to work very, very well. When you combine it from online to hybrid, actually, our industry, we are totally in the pole position, because we can offer something online, but we can combine it with a face-to-face event. So we can package it up. And I know that companies like Reed Exhibitions, they have good experience in packaging up online and off-site products. So to answer Holger's questions, I would say minimum 25% should be able to be done with online. It should be more than 25%.
Okay, that immediately challenged Holger. He's going to have some difficult conversations now. Question from Vijay from Vijay in Singapore. Vijay, how are you doing? If you can unmute Vijay.
Thanks, Nick. How's it going for you?
Can't complain. In sunny London.
Okay. Great. Tesi, I've attended your sprint. Unfortunately, the last one just before the summer break. I found it fascinating, met some really smart people. And I just saw that you're continuing with the sprint, so looking forward to it.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Now, my question is a bit what Holger just said. It actually startled me, because you said there's minimum, but then you just developed on it and you said minimum 25%. I think I agree with you. Because if this pandemic has taught us anything, is that disruption is inevitable, and this might not be our last pandemic or last disruption. My question is, I went through your slides, I'd like to understand more on the business models. So since the business gets disrupted, we have to try new business models. In your groups, did you talk about new business models? I know you briefly touched on that we don't have the skill sets to monetize on, say, the digital technologies yet, but do you have any business models which we should try to at least look into in the immediate future?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the business models, I would divide them into two main groups. And the one is a mass product, and the other one is exclusivity. And for both, we should be actually in the pole position. With the mass product business models, we need to change our thinking and our way how we are charging for them. So it's asking for, and this is something we really have problems with, because normally the invoices we send to our customers are large invoices. An invoice for £500 we would nearly not send because nobody's taking a stand for £500. So we are more looking for the exhibitors who spend 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 pounds with us. The mass market online business model is exactly the other way around. It's micropayment. And I can give you one example I used in one of my panel discussions. So forgive me if you already know it. But I made a self-experiment a while ago. And I said, well, I play a little bit the role. I'm a German wine producer. And I went my whole life into wine shows, and I paid my whole life 5,000 euros for a stand at a wine show. So this is what exhibitors do. So now my son told me I should do the same on Facebook. So I was running a real Facebook campaign, and I pretended to be a German wine producer who wants to sell wine to London shops. Yeah, I just played the role. People didn't know that I'm doing it. I set it up on Facebook. It was bloody complicated because Facebook is not designed, but I made it happen, and I invested the incredible sum of £50, and I got 7 really good leads out of it. So now I'm still the wine producer, and you have a wine trade show, and I say to you, so I can spend £5,000 with you for a stand, or I can spend £50 with Facebook this week, £20 next week, £30 maybe in October, and I get leads. I get exactly the same leads. Actually, in my experiments, I had to call these shops and said, actually, I'm not a wine producer. That was just an experiment, because there were really people sending me emails on Facebook. When are you sending your German wine? We want to have it in our shop. But this is the challenge we are facing in future, that LinkedIn and Facebook will develop tools who produce exactly what you want to have, or partly what you want to have from a trade show. So we need to understand micropayment, and we need to understand how micropayment methods are using. Once we understand this, we go beyond the 25%. That is one pocket. The other pocket is exclusivity. We have access to the big buyers. We have access to the important people in the industry. So when you set up a webinar and said, here I have 20 selected products, please everybody register, hopefully more than 300 people register, that is one thing. Or you say, okay, this is an online session, I send you the samples, and for 20 people only, and for the best buyers only. Then you are in the exclusivity pocket, again in the online format, and you will be able to charge this. So it's a very, very short description of 2 strategies how to make money with online, but they both work. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I completely agree with you. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, very, very interesting subscription model. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone else is, we have quite a few organizers on the line with us. If you want to comment on that, just Stephen from Bala in Bangalore. Hi, Bala. How are you?
Hi, Nick. How are you doing? Hi, Tesi.
Hi, Bala.
Hey. Now, my question is actually, I had asked Tesi some time back already, because when we started a few months back after this COVID thing, everybody has been talking about virtual show, and suddenly we see there is the whole shift happening toward hybrids. So who our organizers have done the virtual shows so far? What has been these sort of, their feedback into the success of virtual shows? That's what my simple question to Tesi is.
The feedback, and here I more or less echo really what Nick is saying, is we are all looking forward to have our live events back, and there is nothing hybrid, and online is great, it's an extension, but nothing can replace the face-to-face momentum unless we have a technology where we watch each other and we have the illusion like we are together in one room and you are not on my screen and I'm not on your screen. For that reason, face-to-face is a strong asset. We should be confident and we should be proud, but we should stop making one mistake which we are making since 20 years. And the mistake is that we think online and on-site are two competing models. I still get today the questions, can virtual trade shows destroy live trade shows? And even the question is wrong. Even the word virtual trade show is wrong, because it implies that we copy something which works very well on site and we put it into the digital sphere. It is not a competing model. It's more the question, how can digital through hybrid enhance our brilliant product once it's back? That would be the right question. So don't reject digital, don't reject online, use digital and use online to make your physical show better, and then move into micropayment solution, move into exclusivity solutions, and use to lead the people to your trade show, because you're reaching more target groups. The think tank is one example. I wanted to talk to people, what should we do in the industry? Could I have talked to 150 people? No, there were many people I didn't know beforehand. Through that online format, we were able to execute it. Hopefully we meet on site very, very soon.
Thanks.
You asked another question if we should have an Indian student group, and the answer is yes, we should have an Indian student group. The students are giving amazing content.
Sure, thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Tesi. So next to Rupert Owen. Rupert, if you can say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi, Nick, can you see me?
Yes, hi, Rupert.
Down the road. Great to see you, Tesi. Great to see you too down the road. My question is, there are so many vendors out there in the hybrid marketplace. Do you have a rating system yet, or can we look at having a rating system for these so that we can at least set a benchmark for the whole industry out there? I mean, we're speaking to 3 tomorrow morning alone, based in Asia, and I know there's at least another 20 out there, and some are very expensive, some are less expensive, some are good at the virtual exhibition side, but actually no one is anywhere near replicating a virtual exhibition platform with face-to-face meetings. So this is just an idea to move forward to try and help the industry understand what the benefits are for each vendor and how we can take a neutral approach to it.
Your question brings some extremely painful memories back at the time when I was e-business director, and I had to look at these platforms very, very seriously, because it's not easy to look at these platforms. What we have in this report I was talking about, we applied our framework to around 15, 16 platforms, and we looked which platform is serving exactly which channel, which exhibitor motivation, and so on and so on. So in the report, you have a chapter talking about 15, 16 platforms as well. But apart from that, is for sure, this is not enough to choose a platform. Is data integration or for me, there are 3 points, and I'm talking here as a former e-business director, but there are 3 points I would look very, very intensively. One is how seamless is the usability. I did some research that future generations will not forgive us anymore if they have to mark something in Outlook, in Zoom, in an online app, in an email. They want to have a seamless usability and a seamless experience in a trade show. Otherwise, they will stop using it. The other one is data integration. So every vendor who is saying, yeah, you can try out my product, why don't we set up a data integration project over 6 months and then you see how fantastic that is, I would see relatively critical. And the third one, and that is a question, some people have this opinion, some people have the other opinion. there are many platforms out there who try to replicate a trade show in a graphical way in the tool as well. So in the tool, you have a virtual show hall, and then you have a virtual conference hall, and then you have a virtual stand. And I'm not a believer in this. I think it's, I think graphical navigation systems slow down matches. So if I have to walk through a virtual hall, the point when I find the exhibitor I'm looking for is longer than if I have a very clever tool like Zoom, for example. Is also not 3D. Zoom is a 2D navigation system, and it works for all of us. So you need to decide, do I want to have this graphical exhibition hall copy, or do I want to have a very well developed 2D model? And I would for the 2D model, but I know that other people have other opinions on that.
Yeah, that's great, Tesi. Thank you. I agree with you totally. I also agree totally with your 80-20 mix or 75-25 mix. I mean, you know, it's moving from an exhibition environment into a virtual exhibition environment is not an easy game. And as you mentioned, there are many companies out there who are doing it from scratch without ever being in an exhibition hall. So
we have, when it comes to hybrid events, we are all startups. Yeah, we might not so fresh, young, agile like startups, but we are all startups when it comes to hybrid events. However, when it comes to face-to-face events, we have been the experts and we remain being the experts. So everybody who's moving into the hybrid event field has one disadvantage compared to us, is they don't have this experience, because eventually people want to meet face-to-face, and this is something we should be confident about.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing you face-to-face very soon in Wimbledon.
Definitely, definitely, with a good glass of wine.
Great, thank you, Rupert. So we have 3 questions. I'd like to come to Martin, then Luciano, then Pepe in Mexico. So Martin Maez, I believe you're in Munich as well. Martin, can you hear us, and can you say hello? Martin. No, so perhaps we'll come back to him. So Luciano, if you want to ask your question. It's not there either.
Also,
Luciano?
Yes, here I am. Thank you. I was waiting for the unmute. Hi, nice to meet you, Matthias. Thank you for the information. That was very interesting. I'm working in a virtual platform now, trying to develop something new. And I'd like to ask you, how do you imagine the merge between the virtual and the physical event? I mean, obviously, the 3D experience must to have something that show you the venue, like the venue is real, or it should be like another model, a graphical model that should be 2D, or I don't know, more simple. I'm trying to think with you.
For me, it's when this is a 2 and 3D question, and the 3D model in the digital world has a wow factor, and people say, hey, wow, that looks very nice. And once the wow factor is over, the only thing that counts is business. For this is what B2B events are for. So if the 3D model blocks me to find the exhibitor I need as quickly as possible, if it blocks me to find maybe the peer, the product, the piece of information, then the 3D model, the wow factor from the beginning doesn't count for me. This is exactly the reason why I'm a big believer in the 2D model, which doesn't mean it should be old-fashioned. It should be super modern. I think we need to invest much more in artificial intelligence and much more in things that are helping our target group to find whatever they look forward. If it's an exhibitor, a product, a person, a piece of information. So for me, this whole question, 3D or 2D, can be answered with a question, no 3D, and then we can move on to the next thing, and then it's okay, how do we make it faster, more efficient, and better for our target group to achieve what they want to achieve. That is my view, but I know I have a strong view on this, and I know other people might have other views.
I'm more interested in know, how do you imagine a visitor going to find the provider in 400 companies in a virtual event. Do you know? In a floor plan, you know, you see, you look. Oh, there you go. It's like, I don't know. It's happening. You know, you've been there.
It's happening, and
but
in
virtual it's totally different. You have just a list. How do you find it?
Artificial intelligence. It's very simple. It's an algorithm. If I was on that, and seamlessness. So artificial intelligence and the total seamless experience as a visitor. If I'm interested in Italian products, you are a peer, you are interested in the same product, then I theoretically don't need to search for it. If the algorithm is clever enough, and you know we are in the same business, then he could recommend what you were searching for, and then I would find my product a couple of seconds quicker. So it's AI solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tesi. So now I can see Martin's back. Hi, Martin from Fairtrade Vessel. And forgive me, you're in Heidelberg, not in Munich. Forgive me. Over to you. I can't hear you. I can't.
Some of the findings that we did while we were preparing our virtual show. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can now. Yes.
Yeah. And we found out that, you know, we cannot do a show for, let's say, a virtual show for, let's say, $500 or €500 per exhibitor. Why can't we do it? Just calculate if you have 50 exhibitors or 100 exhibitors, and you multiply it by 50 by €500, you just have 25,000 or let's say 50,000 euro, which you could spend on the overall visitor promotion campaign. This is just not feasible. So we decided, okay, we need to charge considerable amounts of fees, and that is, let's say, between 4,000 and 6,000 euro per package, depending on what you include in the package. And then you have got the sponsoring on the top, and we find out that the most important spending is on the visitor promotion. It is not so much on the portal or on the software or whatsoever, and it is also not on, of course, it is not on the exhibition grounds or on modular booth construction, what we had before, but it is on, let's say, making this event a real attractive event. And that we found out it is not very easy. And of course, you're absolutely right, Tesi. We are all beginners. We are all starting from scratch. But this journey, you know, is amazing. It makes it is big fun to learn all this. And you know, then my last remark is concerning the hybrid event that we are going to do, let's say, from our point of view, from the second quarter or second half of 2021. We think that with the real exhibition stand, people are at the same time, they are buying in the platform also for the hybrid stand. So that with with no extra cost actually, they are going to participate in the live show, let's say in Nigeria or in Algeria or wheresoever in Iran. And at the same time, from their office, they are going to have another crew doing the Onsite, the online show, the virtual show. And this is an added value for the exhibitors and of course for the visitors. If you're doing a show in Nigeria, for instance, of course, many people from many other countries can join in, can participate and can profit from the leads that they can generate over there. So the future is bright and we are ready for it actually.
Very cool. Perfect.
Great to hear. I mean, I also loved Tesi's quote that in hybrid events, you know, we're all startups. However, certainly, you know, as you mentioned, Martin, you know, we have a great advantage. So, you know, we have the existing platforms, we know the communities, we have the trust of the communities. So, you know, if our future is in our hands. Okay, so we have time for maybe one or two more questions. If we move over to Mexico, Pepe Navarro, are you with us, Pepe? You were asking you had your hand up for a long time. Can we unmute Pepe? Tarsus,
Yes,
Mexico.
I'm still here. So thank you very much. It was very good, very enlightening, Matthias, your point of view. And I was thinking, just for a minute, imagine that you're coming from the digital world, everybody. So it's all the way around. And somebody comes up with an idea that, what about putting physically all these people together and meeting, and they would find the same thing. They would find, a digital tool will find some difficulties to bring people, real people together and contact and showing products and everything. So what I think is, and I agree with you, we are all startups, and we are thinking as a trade show organizers, but we have to really be on the middle between the digital world and the physical world. So the model, it's an hybrid model, but I think it's the one that's going to play the rules in the future. The financial model will have to be developed by us, and will have to be a mixture between the good of digital world and the excellent part of the real world. That's what we are thinking, and it's not easy. It's difficult to really package solutions, digital and physical, but I think that's the way trade shows will develop in the future. That's our point of view in Mexico.
I totally agree, and I really couldn't agree more. And I didn't talk too much about the fourth point on the one slide where it said supporting people. And I found it amazing, and this is also why I said to Bala, yes, let's have an Indian student group. Is when we reported back on the summer sprint, that was a panel discussion last week, 4 panelists. One was a student from Italy and one was a student from South Africa, which means that we had 180 people signed up for this panel discussion, which means nothing else than 2 students have explained to us how they see the future. It couldn't be more valuable content. And this is exactly what we want to achieve as an exhibition think tank club, and why we also say to managing directors, CEOs, marketing directors, everybody should join. Students, please join as well. And I had many light bulb moments, but one light bulb moment was definitely when I was on these hybrid trade show websites. They talk in their text everywhere about exhibitors, but they mean something totally different. So we need to understand what other people think or mean when they talk about what we do in our business as well. So bringing people together, diversify skills, and talk to people who are from different regions, younger, older, different target groups. It's never been so important than it is now.
Yeah, and going back to your original 4 areas of supporting people, if you don't support and listen to, all the stakeholders in your company from the top down to the bottom up, you're not going to get the kind of products that our future customers will want. So we have quite time for one last question. We'll run slightly over, but Sabina, where are you? Sabina, or
yeah,
can we unmute
here
Sabina for the final question?
Thank you so much. I have a big misunderstanding. I do not understand, where does the virtual part take place? Is it in the companies? Do you only do it online? I want them to be here in our halls and sell the halls for the virtual parts. We have very big companies requesting our halls at the moment for these virtual TV studios. How do you manage this? How are you doing this? Thank you, Nick.
Exactly, and Sabine, this is exactly the reason why I said 75% of the USP comes through live in the show hall, in the event. And this is exactly the reason why I said we have a strong asset, and bringing the people together at the trade show is something we need to be confident. Our product is amazing, and our product is enabling business like no other, which doesn't mean we should reject or we should ignore online, because when our customers are in our hall and the show is over, they leave the hall, they don't switch off their brains. They're still our customers, they still do business, they still have needs, they still want to engage with us. And for that reason, we need to then continue offering them online tools, but we should not talk our exhibitions down, or we should not be even not confident about it, because the whole thing with hybrid comes to life at the trade show. So I couldn't agree more with you. The only old misunderstanding to put virtual against a trade show or vice versa, I'm just against it. One needs to serve the other format.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Tesi. And I think on that note is a good point to bring it to a conclusion. So I'd just like to ask you all to join. A couple of you have asked in the chat. We will post the recording of this presentation tomorrow on ufi.org/UFI Connect panel. Pascal, if you can pop up the slides. So just want to tell you about the next UFI Connects we have, which is this Thursday, which is to do with waste management in the exhibitions industry. Of course, you know, although we're very happy to be starting some events again, and what this has meant in some cases, obviously pre-packaged food, etc., and people are worried that we'll go back doing some great work in the past years, and this will of course continue. So please join us for that. Next slide, Pascal. After that, the following Monday, we have one from Dubai, reopening Dubai for business and tourism, which should be, again, interesting session. We have some good speakers there. And finally, just send us any of your comments, or if you would like us to talk about some different issues, invite various speakers, please get in touch at media@ufi.org, and of course, please share on social media. So the final responsibility is to thank our diamond sponsors, TSEB, Qatar National Tourism Council, Shenzhen World, and Freeman. And with that, I wish you a very good rest of your day.